Okay, look, it's 1:30, but by a show of hands, if anybody wants to ask a few questions, they'll stay for a minute or two or three. But we are looking to wrap this up. If anybody would like to go and not be part of the question and answer period, please feel free to do so.
My question is this: there's one mystery at the heart of all of this, which you kind of alluded to, Robert. That there's something bigger here beyond Obama's Islamism. It's the fact that everybody, it seems like there's, in his administration, all the people you mentioned, and the press, and so many forces in America seem intent upon repressing free speech and coddling everything Muslim. So it's a mystery that I ponder every day, and I wonder what your insight is about that. What is that bigger, larger thing?
It's not an accident. This is not something that happened overnight. This is a plan. Look, there's conspiracy theory and there's conspiracy fact, and the global jihad is a fact. And you have to understand that the infiltration by the Muslim Brotherhood of government, of social, of cultural forces has been going on for decades. As we witnessed in the Holy Land trial, the major Muslim organizations in America, ICNA, ISNA, MAS, MSA, of course, our favorite group, CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations. We have a real love affair with those boys. I mean, they have infiltrated at the senior level. One only had to witness what happened to Steve Coughlin at the Pentagon. Here is the leading litigation specialist on the threat doctrine, on jihad, was fired because of the influence of Hesham Islam on Brown, right? It was Gordon England, thank you, Gordon Brown of the UK. So that's just the most stark example. But I did a piece, and if you should Google it, on the Society of Professional Journalists, where they have instructions on how to write about Islam, how to write about a terrorist attack. Don't mention religious motivation. If you have to mention religious motivation, remember to cite abortion clinic bombings, boom, 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 boom. And I'd like Robert to also address this as well. What I'm saying is that it's not an accident. You know, you have a Molly Norris had to go into hiding. Here's a girl, she's what I call the accidental counter-jihadist, because she hears about the producers of Comedy Central being targeted for death by jihadists, and she goes, hey, let's everybody draw Muhammad Day. You know, she's thinking like when America was free. And she immediately retracts, immediately apologizes within, I think, 48 hours, it doesn't matter. The fact that she apologized made her an easy target. She has had to go into hiding at her own expense, change her name, lost her job. How is this girl not front page of every newspaper? She's them. Robin and I, we get death threats all the time. I actually ran a couple of the wilder ones this week because they were wild. It irked me, and it's been there for a while. It irked me that Daisy Khan says on Christian Amanpour's ridiculous panel, shilling for Islam in the Ground Zero Mosque, says, making fun of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, because Ayaan Hirsi Ali says to her, look, you have a great life. Why do you play the victim? Why are you playing the victim? You have a great life, great job. Here you are on ABC News. They're shilling for you. She didn't say that, but. And you got to see the real face of Daisy Khan. You got to see her in that moment. And she said, you're the victim, you walk around with a bodyguard. And the mostly Muslim audience, ha ha ha, isn't that funny? It's not funny. But she said, well, I get death threats too. Oh, Daisy Khan's getting death threats. Oh my God, front page, New York Post, New York Daily News. And she's getting police protection. You ever get police protection? Laws, bills, Kurt Vestergaard, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Ibn Warren, Wafa Sultan. Only American that has to live in hiding. Nobody ever hears that. Oh, but Daisy Khan she got a phone call. Not a phone call, maybe it was just a heavy breather. I want to see proof. I'll show you tweets about executing Pamela Geller, snail mail, email. She got a phone call. And you can check with the police, she said. Yeah, she called the police. I got a threatening phone call. Okay. Yes? She said she got a threatening phone call. All right, you want to address this in order?
I don't know, the larger goal, the larger strategy, I think that it's impossible to speculate because there's just so much obviously going on that is not being made public. And to speculate on those grounds is just to get into conspiracy theorizing, and what's the point? But there is one chief engine that is running this thing. Certainly the Muslim Brotherhood and the Organization of the Islamic Conference are working to shape the narrative about Islam in the West. And one of the chief ways that they're doing that is what Pamela is describing about playing the victim. And it's very insidious and very clever, and you will probably run into it. And so I think it's worth noting some of these other ways in which it works. But the idea is, in this society, we have a history of racism, discrimination against various groups. And everybody abhors that, everybody hates that, and nobody wants to be put into the position of bringing that on any other group now. And so the Council on American Islamic Relations and other Hamas-linked Muslim Brotherhood groups like them, they play that card very skillfully and say, see, you're discriminating against us. And so how does that work? Well, consider the honor-killing taxi ad campaign that Pamela conceived for Stop Islamization of America. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it was a brilliant thing where pictures of these beautiful young girls who had been murdered by their fathers for besmirching the honor of the Islamic family. In America, in the United States, their photos were put up and it said honor-killing victim, and if you want to leave Islam safely, go to leaveislamsafely.com, which is our site, and so on. And there was all kinds of media about it, and it invariably, these stories would invariably quote a CARE spokesman or some other Muslim spokesman saying, this demonizes all Muslims. And now think about that. If you have a battered women's shelter, and this is, I'm stealing your line here, but I'll pay you later. How much do these cost? If you have a battered women's shelter, does that demonize all husbands? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's contrafactual. It's against common sense. But they say these things all the time, and people say, oh yeah, we can't demonize all Muslims, therefore we can't speak about honor killing. And so the girls keep dying. That's how it works. Yes, sir.
Okay. I think one of the things that we have to add to this is our friends, the Saudi snakes, who have bought Georgetown with $20 million, who have bought Harvard, who have bought Princeton, who have bought every major institution in the United States, where you can't say what you think is real. And that's one of the biggest problems we have, is the Saudi money.
Absolutely.
Philadelphia is home to a think tank, I know you know, but the Middle East Forum, led by Daniel Pike. And Daniel's no shrinking violet. He has said for years that militant Islam is the problem and moderate Islam is the solution. I haven't heard him say that recently, but what is your thought on that? What's your reaction?
I disagree with him.
That would be a great idea if moderate Islam existed. But modern Islam does not exist. Now, mind you, I was saying this earlier to somebody, and she said, oh, but there are moderates. Yes, I'm not saying moderate Muslims don't exist. I'm saying moderate Islam does not exist. That's a very important distinction that is often elided. There are lots of Muslims who just want to live their lives and have jobs and raise their families and take care of themselves, and that's it. They don't care about blowing themselves up or killing infidels, and never will. You know, you grow up in a culture and you bear the name, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do anything about it. There's a spectrum of belief, knowledge, and fervor among Muslims, just as there is among people of any other religious tradition or really any belief system. And in other words, there are people who know all about it and care, people who don't know all about it and don't care, people who know all about it and don't care, etc. Anyway, the problem with it is that there is no form of Islam, there is no sect, there is no school of Islamic law that does not teach that Muslims have to wage war against unbelievers and fight and kill them. That doesn't mean every Muslim's doing it, but there's no form of Islam that doesn't teach that. So there is no moderate Islam. It would be great if it were invented, and then maybe it could be the solution, but I don't know if we have 500 years to work that out.
I just want to say, and 10 years into Pipes' plan, where did it get us? I'm just saying, it's an abject failure. And like Robert said, anecdotally, we all know nice Muslims. It's got nothing to do with the ideology that's inspiring these attacks, and I just don't. I think it's a waste. I think it's an incredible, sorry waste of time, money, resources, and reality. So, yes.
First, I want to thank you both for your tremendous courage. You and a few other courageous people around the country and around the world have done a great job of diagnosing the problem, telling us about the problem. You mentioned Go Vote. What other action items can we do to try and stamp out this problem?
I'm glad you brought that up. What we've witnessed here is a demonization of every effective leader. This is very important because even you, I'm sure there are people in this room that have been that have been victimized by this. Take, for example, Sarah Palin. I think she's a great candidate. I think she's a wonderful. I mean, they have nothing on this woman. Think about it. Here's a mother, 5 children. Anybody in the room who's got 1 kid knows what that means. Goes to school, does the PTA. Not all mothers do that, okay? Does the PTA, gets involved. She's obviously civic-minded, becomes mayor, does a hell of a job. You betcha, you know? Loves her husband loves her, becomes governor. She's in charge of oil. She's on the Oil and Gas Commission. Goes up against the old boy network. Won't play games. Resigns. She's her own woman. I mean, she's perfect. They had nothing on this woman, nothing. And look what they've done. Look what they've done to this woman. I mean, to say her name is to laugh. What is that? It's the hatred of the good for being the good. I am proud to say that I'm affiliated with a group called Jews for Sarah. I strongly, strongly recommend that you support this group. Here we have, listen, back in the day when she was nobody, she had an Israeli flag in her office. And I do believe that it has nothing to do with Judaism. Where you stand on Israel, frankly, is where your moral compass is. But it's true. It's true because in the war between the civilized man and the savage, you always side with the civilized man. And that's essentially what it's all about. And she has been stalwart on Israel. We do there are chapters on Obama and the Jews, Obama and Israel. I mean, half that book is about Obama and the Jews. He's clearly an anti-Semite. I'm not going to go into that now. We don't have time, but it's all in evidence. So yeah, Alan West, John Bolton. You have to say, oh, you're another one. You can't say that. If a guy with a resume so thin that to say thin is actually an exaggeration, whose background is under such a question, and the media won't touch it. If a man like Barack Hussein Obama could become president, why can't John Bolton? Why can't Sarah Palin? Why can't these are righteous. These are America's best.
Guys, we'll have to, they're going to be at the table, they're going to be signing books. I'm so sorry, but we did promise to be over by now. So if you'd like to stay, get a book, they'll be there to answer your questions. Thank you all so much.